Jake Walker didn't expect anything strange that day. He was flying his small cargo ship over a desert on Earth, heading back from a supply drop near an abandoned mining colony. The sun was low, and the sky had turned a soft orange. His coffee was cold, and his radio was quiet. Then he saw the smoke. It was black and thick, rising far ahead like a burning tower. Jake leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. The radar beeped once, a brief blip hand, then went silent. Something had crashed. Probably just another junk satellite, he muttered. But he turned the ship anyway. As he got closer, the smoke grew darker. Pieces of metal were scattered across the sand like broken bones. Some parts were glowing. Others had sharp alien markings. Jake didn't recognize the design. He landed the ship nearby, grabbed a fire blanket, and stepped into the hot wind. His boots crunched over shattered glass and twisted parts. The crash was recent. Heat still rose from the debris. Then he heard it. A cry. Not a human cry. Not an animal. It was high-pitched, echoing, and full of fear. A baby jot. Jake moved faster, pushing aside metal panels. He followed the sound to the center of the wreck. There, surrounded by smoke and broken wires, was a pod. Inside the pod, glowing dim blue, was a baby wrapped in some kind of silver fabric. She wasn't human. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer. Her eyes were large and glowing. She had soft ridges on her forehead and tiny tendrils instead of hair. But her tears, her pain, her helpless cry felt human. Jake froze. "You're just a baby," he whispered. The pod sparked. One side caught fire. Without thinking, Jake wrapped the baby in the fire blanket and lifted her into his arms. She was warm. She clung to his chest like she had known him forever. Jake ran back to his ship. Inside his ship, he placed the baby on a padded seat and checked her for wounds. No burns, no bleeding. She was breathing. Jake sat down across from her, staring. "What? Are you?" She looked at him and gave a soft, cooing sound. "Okay," he said slowly. Let's not tell anyone about this." Jake knew the rules. Any alien life found on Earth must be reported to the authorities. But he didn't trust them. If they found her, they'd lock her up, study her, maybe even hurt her. So, Jake made a decision. He would raise her himself. He took her home, Anne. Old cabin deep in the forest, far from cities and satellites. He told no one. He named her Nova. It meant Star Nova grew fast. In just 3 months, she looked like a 2-year-old human child. She could speak in strange sounds at first, but slowly began to copy human words. Her eyes still glowed in the dark. She could float objects without touching them. When she was sad, small energy sparks danced on her skin. Jake didn't care. He loved her. He taught her to read, to laugh, to climb trees. He showed her stars through a telescope and told her stories of brave space travelers. She would listen with wide, shining eyes. "Where's your home, Nova?" he once asked. She pointed to the night sky and said, "Far. Do you remember it?" Nova was silent. Then she whispered, "Broken." Jake felt his heart ache. Years passed. Jake stayed hidden from the world. Nova grew older, smarter, stronger. A key was no longer a baby. She was something more. But then one morning, she was gone. Jake woke up to silence. Her bed was empty. Her clothes were folded neatly. On the table sat the same pod she had arrived in. It was glowing again. There was a message etched in glowing letters across the pod's surface. "Thank you, Father. I must go now." Jake stared at the words for hours. He searched the forest. He called her name until his voice broke. Nova never returned. The cabin felt empty. Without her, Jake sat by the window every evening, holding the orb from the pod. It glowed softly, like it missed her too. He waited days turned to weeks, then 2 years. He grew older, slower. His beard turned white. But he never stopped looking up at the stars. He often whispered, "Where are you, Nova?" And in the quiet nights, when the wind was still, he sometimes thought he heard her voice. Far. But watching. The forest was too quiet now. Jake Walker sat outside his cabin every morning, watching the trees sway. Birds still sang. Wind still moved the leaves. But inside him, something had gone still. Nova was gone. He had raised her, fed her, protected her. He gave her stories, hope, love, everything he could. And just like that, she had left. No warning, no goodbye. Just a glowing orb and a message. "Thank you, Father. I must go now." Jake read it again and again, hoping there was some clue. But the message never changed. For the first few days, Jake searched the forest. He checked every path, every rock, every place Nova used to play. He shouted her name until his voice cracked. He even waited by the stream where she used to float leaves with her mind. Nothing. 1 week later, he activated an old communication device he hadn't used in years. It linked to a private satellite channel meant for black market traders and ex-military pilots like him. He typed a message, looking for a ship that entered Earth's atmosphere. Quiet, no noise, no blast. Date, 1 week ago. Need info? Urgent. No one replied for hours. Then one line came back. No ship entered. Earth's sky was clear. Jake frowned. That wasn't possible. Nova was gone. She couldn't have walked away. She had to be taken or called. Jake didn't stop. He sent messages to old friends, pirates, smugglers, alien contact brokers. He paid with all the credits he had left. He asked the same question again and again. Did anyone see a glowing girl with blue eyes and silver skin? Weeks passed, then months, and nothing. Jake stayed alone in his forest cabin. The world outside moved on. Cities grew, wars started, peace was signed, then broken again. But for Jake, time had stopped. He kept Nova's room clean, her bed untouched. The pod still glowed faintly on the table, like a candle waiting to be lit again. Sometimes Jake spoke to it. "I hope you're safe. I hope you found home." On one strange night, a bright light shone through the trees. Jake rushed outside, heart pounding, but it was only a comet. His shoulders dropped. He stood there for a long time, staring up. "Nova? Why did you leave me?" 5 years passed. Jake was older now. His hair was mostly white. His back hurt. His hands weren't steady like before, but he still walked to the same hilltop every evening, just to watch the stars. And every night, he whispered her name. One night, he brought the pod with him. He placed it on a rock. It hadn't changed in 5 years, but as the moonlight touched it, the pod glowed brighter than ever before. Jake stared. Then it opened. The top slid back with a soft hiss. A small sphere rose from inside, covered in glowing lines. It hovered in front of Jake and projected a soft blue light. A message began to play. Nova's voice. "Father, if you're seeing this." Then you waited. Jake's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry I left you," her voice said. "I had to go. Something called to me. Something old. Something I couldn't ignore." The image changed. It showed a map of stars. Many he didn't recognize. One star glowed brighter. "I found them, my people. Or what's left of them." The light dimmed. They were waiting for me. They called me Queen. I didn't understand at first, but the blood inside me, it remembered. Nova's voice became softer. "But I never forgot you, Father. You showed me kindness when I was nothing. You gave me more than life. You gave me love. Jake fell to his knees. I will return when I am strong. When I can give back what you gave me. The message ended. The pod closed. Jake didn't move for a long time. The next morning, Jake cleaned his cabin. He made fresh tea. He even fixed the broken leg of the table Nova. Once kicked over as a child, something had changed. Hope had returned. He didn't know when Nova would come back, but he believed now. She was out there, alive, growing, becoming something great. He smiled to himself. She's coming back, and the stars will follow her. 10 years had passed since Jake last saw Nova. He was no longer a young man. His hands shook when he poured tea. His eyes didn't see as clearly. His steps were slow and careful. But every morning he still walked to the same hilltop and looked at the sky. He never stopped believing she would come back. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, the sky changed. It didn't turn orange or red like usual. It turned gold, then blue, then light. A line of bright energy split the clouds like a crack in heaven. A sound deep and soft, like a song from space, rippled across the land. Birds stopped singing. The forest stood still. And Jake. He stood too, frozen in awe. Above him, a massive shape emerged from the clouds. It was not a ship. It was a fortress, a city. A world of its own, floating silently in the sky. Jake's mouth fell open. The ship moved with perfect grace, like a living thing. Its surface shimmered like water and metal at the same time. Symbols danced across its sides, ancient and unreadable. Across Earth, cameras turned, satellites zoomed in, and the world watched static spread. Was it an invasion? Leaders rushed into bunkers. Military jets launched into the air. Missiles were prepared, but the ship didn't fire. Instead, it opened from its center. A single beam of golden light touched the earth, and within that beam, figure descended. Jake dropped to his knees as she came closer. The glowing figure stepped out of the light, floating gently above the ground. Her feet touched the grass with silent grace. Her long silver cloak moved like smoke. Her armor was gold and pearl, etched with stars, and on her head sat a crown that shimmered like galaxies. But Jake knew that face. Her eyes still glowed the same soft blue. Nova had returned, but she wasn't a child. Anymore, she wasn't even just a girl. She was a queen. Nova stood before Jake and looked at him. Her face showed no fear, no pride, only love. She stepped forward, knelt down, and bowed her head to him. "Father," she said. Jake's breath caught. Tears filled his old eyes. "Nova, is it really you?" She looked up and smiled. "I told you I'd come back." Jake reached out, his hands trembling. She took them gently in her own. Her touch was warm, just like it had been when she was a baby. The moment was quiet, but the world was watching. All over Earth, people stared at their screens. News drones circled the ship. Reporters shouted questions. Who is she? Why is she here? Is Earth in danger? Governments sent messages to the ship, but it was Nova who answered. She stood before a global assembly, leaders, scientists, generals. Jake stood behind her, silent, leaning on a cane. He didn't speak much anymore, but his presence said everything. Nova's voice echoed across the chamber. "I am Nova, daughter of Earth, queen of the Sillar Union." Whispers spread. "Sillar Union? What is that?" She raised a hand. A hologram appeared, showing a vast part of space, hundreds of stars, planets, and moons. These worlds once scattered after the fall. I united them. I bring peace. Someone shouted, "Why come to Earth?" Nova looked to Jake, and then she answered, Because this is where I was saved. This is where I learned kindness. This is my true home. She offered Earth more than words. Cures for disease. Machines that could clean oceans. Engines that didn't burn fuel. Shields that could stop meteors. Food that grew without soil. Peace. Treaties with alien races, gifts beyond. Imagination, but not everyone accepted them. Some humans whispered behind closed doors. We can't trust her. She's too powerful. What if she's lying? Even as Nova gave, fear spread like a shadow. Jake could feel the tension building. He sat with Nova on the ship one night, in a garden that floated above the earth. Nova. He said softly, they fear what they don't understand. She nodded. I know, but I won't stop trying. Jake smiled. That's the girl I raised. Nova placed her hand on his and whispered, You didn't raise a girl, Father. You raised a queen. But even queens must face danger, and deep. Within Earth's power circles, some were already planning something dark, something that could destroy the fragile peace, something that would force Nova to choose between mercy and war. Earth had never seen anything like it. Nova, now Queen of the Stellar Union, had returned not just with promises, but with miracles within 1 week. She had cleared pollution from 5 major cities using floating air crystals. Her ships dropped special seeds into deserts, and green grass grew within days. Small blue drones, shaped like birds, flew to hospitals and healed hundreds with soft light and strange humming songs. People were shocked. They were scared at first, then amazed, then hopeful. Every day, Nova spoke to Earth's leaders through holograms. She didn't ask for control. She didn't demand obedience. She only offered help. The Stellar Union believes in balance, she said. What we give freely. But not all leaders trusted her. In a hidden bunker beneath the Arctic, 4 powerful men and 2 women sat at a long table. Their faces were hard, their uniforms sharp. She's not human, one man growled, and she knows too much. She turned off 5 nuclear sites with a blink, said another. What if next time she shuts down our defenses? She's playing a game, the woman said coldly. Make the people love her. Then take the planet without firing a single shot. They all looked at the screen. Nova's face smiled gently back at them from a news broadcast. Children were waving at her in the background. Begin Operation Eclipse, the lead general said. Remove her, quietly. Jake sat on the grass, looking up at Nova's ship hanging high in the sky. It was like a moon now, always there, always glowing. He was proud, but also worried. He had seen this before, humans turning against what they didn't understand. He hoped they had changed. But deep inside, he knew. Not all had Nova joined him on the hill. Father, she said, sitting beside him, I want to give Earth one more gift. Jake smiled weakly. Haven't you given enough? She shook her head. Not yet. This one is special. 3 days later, Nova invited every Earth leader, scientist, and peacekeeper to a global summit. The location was a special platform that floated above Earth's orbit, half space station, half garden. It was a peaceful place, built in her flagship, the Crown of Stars. Jake attended to, holding her arm as he walked slowly. Inside the summit, the walls shimmered with stars. The floor was made of crystal that reflected Earth below. Plants from distant planets glowed gently in flower beds. There were no guards, no weapons. Only peace. Nova stood at the center. Today, she said, I give you the light core. She opened her hand. Floating above her palm was a sphere of white gold light. It pulsed softly like a living heart. This core can power your planet for 10,000 years. No smoke, no damage, no cost. It will never run out. The room fell silent. One man whispered, "This could end the energy war." Another muttered, "If she controls this, she controls us." But before anyone could speak again, a sudden flash came from the corner. A blast of red light shot through the air. Nova turned. Jake shouted. A small explosion hit the edge of the platform. Guards rushed. In smoke filled the chamber. And in the chaos, someone fired again straight at Nova. Jake saw it all in slow motion. The energy bolt flew through the air. He didn't think. He didn't hesitate. He stepped in front of her, and the bolt struck him. Jake fell to the floor. Nova screamed, catching him in her arms. The guard secured the attacker was one of Earth's security officers. Planted there by the secret group, Nova held Jake, her face frozen in shock. Father, no, please stay with me." He smiled, even as blood stained his shirt. "I told you, humans fear what they don't understand," he whispered. "Don't speak," she said, glowing hands pressing against his wound. "I can fix it. I can heal you." Jake reached up and touched her face. "No. You already gave me everything." His hand dropped. His eyes closed, and the man who raised a queen was gone. The summit ended in silence. Earth mourned. Nova returned Jake's body to his forest cabin. She buried him beneath a tree where she first learned to read. The tree where they once watched stars together. His gravestone read, "Jake Walker, father of 1,000 worlds." Nova changed that day. Her heart still glowed, but it carried a scar. She forgave Earth, but she also made a decision. No more weapons. No more lies. No more waiting for peace. The stars did not shine that night. Not above Earth. Not above the crown of stars. Nova stood alone in the garden chamber of her ship, her back to the sky, her eyes to the floor. The glowing plants had dimmed. The birds she'd brought from far. Worlds had stopped singing. Even the air felt heavier. Jake Walker was gone. The man who had rescued her as a crying alien baby. The man who called her daughter before she could speak. The man who had stepped in front of a deadly blast meant for her. Now all that remained was his grave. And her grief. Across the Sela reunion, word spread quickly. The Queen's human father. Murdered during a peace summit. Earth turned. Its weapons against the Queen. This was no accident. And with the news came fury. From every edge of the stars, Solari warships began to move. Thousands of them. Their hulls shimmered like comets. Their weapons pulsed like stars. On the bridge of the war fleet, Commander Zell Nova's top general spoke without emotion. Earth has broken sacred protocol. They drew blood during peace. Under Solari law, war is justified. He turned to the Council of Alien Leaders. "Shall we strike?" Many nodded, but they waited for one voice. Nova stood before the window in her chambers. Earth floated outside, beautiful and quiet. But inside her heart, storms were rising. Her advisors stood behind her. One by one, they spoke. Jake Walker was a hero, and now humans spit on his memory. They must pay for their betrayal. Let the skies burn, my queen. But Nova raised her hand. "No," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were filled with fire. "Not yet." She went to Earth one final time, not to speak, not to offer gifts, but to stand before the same leaders who had once doubted her. She arrived without guards, no armor, only Jake's old flight jacket draped across her shoulders. She stood at the United World Council and spoke clearly. "My father died protecting peace," she said. "But you chose war." A few leaders looked away in shame. Others stared at her without guilt. Nova lifted her hand. A small orb floated up recording data. Sound, light, energy signatures. It played the final moment again, from every angle. The assassin had been trained, planted, ordered. "Here is your proof," Nova said. The attack was no accident. It was planned. A silence fell over the chamber like a blanket. Then Nova said the words no one wanted to hear. "If justice does not come from Earth, it will come from the stars." Within hours, global panic erupted. World powers sent desperate messages to Nova's ship. Some begged for peace. Others denied involvement. A few blamed her. Militaries scrambled to prepare for war they knew they could never win. Jake's forest, once peaceful now, had satellites above it and drones circling the area. Every country wanted access to his grave, to the pod that had brought Nova to Earth. Nova returned to his resting place. She placed a shield dome over the land, untouchable, invisible, eternal. "No one touches this place," she said. "This is sacred ground." That night, inside her war council, the generals gathered again. "Earth has chosen its path," Commander Zell said. "They delay, they lie, they hide their guilt. It is time." Nova stood silently, her crown casting long shadows across the table. She had not slept. She had not wept, but inside, her heart was breaking. She raised one hand. "Prepare the fleet." The next morning, 12,000 Solari ships entered Earth's orbit. Their arrival darkened the skies over every continent. People looked up. Not with hope, but with fear. Nova's voice echoed in every speaker, every device, every satellite. "This is not revenge," she said. "This is warning." Her ships charged their weapons, but did not fire. Then she gave Earth one final chance. "Deliver the ones responsible. Disarm your weapons. Honor my father's memory, or Earth will face the judgment of 1,000 worlds." The world was split. Some nations agreed, desperate to avoid destruction. They began peace talks, turned in officials connected to the attack, and begged forgiveness. But others refused. "We don't surrender to aliens. She threatens us. This is not peace. This is blackmail." In secret, a hidden missile silo launched a test weapon into orbit, aimed directly at the crown of stars. Nova watched it coming. She did not flinch, with a blink. The missile was frozen, mid-surrounded by glowing bands of light. She turned to Zell. "Hold your fire," she said. "Just one more day." And so the stars held their breath. Nova waited not as a queen, not as a conqueror, but as a daughter who had once been saved by a kind man in the forest. She had become ruler of 1,000 worlds. But in her heart, she still just wanted peace, and Earth now stood on the edge between mercy and war. The skies were silent. 12,000 alien ships floated above Earth. Their lights flickered like stars. But no stars had ever looked that close. People watched from cities, farms, and bunkers, waiting, fearing, wondering. Nova, Queen of the Solari Union, gave Earth one more day, one more chance, in her private chamber aboard the Crown of Stars. Nova stood before a large window. Earth spun gently below her, blue, green, and beautiful. She had traveled across galaxies. She had seen suns explode, planets fall, empires rise. But Earth was different. It was where she had learned to walk, where she had first laughed. Where? Jake Walker raised her like his own. Nova touched her chest where a small silver pendant hung. Inside it, a single strand of Jake's old jacket, carefully folded. She whispered, "What would you do, Father?" And then she heard him, not a voice in the room, not a ghost, but something deeper. Ah, memory? It was the day Nova had floated her first stone using her powers. She was 5 small, glowing, laughing. The stone had hit a tree by accident and cracked its bark. Nova had panicked. Jake had knelt beside her and said, You're strong. Nova. But strength means nothing if you don't choose when to use it. I didn't mean to, she had cried. He had smiled. I know, but people will fear you one day. Not because you're bad, because they don't understand you. When that day comes, remember, this power doesn't make you great. Kindness does. The memory faded. Nova opened her eyes, and she knew what she had to do. She summoned the Solari High Council. They appeared as glowing figures, each representing a star system, each wearing armor of light. I will not burn Earth, she said. Not for revenge, not for justice. Commander Zell narrowed his eyes. They killed your father. They lied. They fired at us. They show no regret. Nova nodded. I know. But he wouldn't want this. He would want understanding. You won't spare them? Zell asked. No, she said firmly. I would teach them. Nova sent a final message to Earth. At sunrise, I will arrive. No guards, no ships. I ask only for your truth. The world held its breath. She landed in Geneva, the same landing pad where her father once walked with her. This time, she came alone. No armor, no crown. Only Jake's jacket. And she didn't speak from behind shields or towers. She walked into the United World Council and looked every leader in the eye. I came here with gifts, she said. I came here with peace, but you answered with betrayal. Some looked ashamed, others stayed silent. Nova held up the silver pendant. This is all I have left of the man who saved me. A man you didn't trust. A man some of you ordered killed. She paused. I could end your world in seconds, but I won't, because he wouldn't. One by one, the leaders began to speak. Some apologized. Others confessed. Then, slowly, the names came out. Those responsible for the assassination were exposed. Nova said nothing as they were taken away. Instead, she simply turned and left. Back on her ship, the Cellari Council awaited her. What now? Asked XEL. Nova looked tired, but calm. We forgive, she said. We give Earth one more chance, and then we watch. That night, Nova returned to the forest one last time. Jake's grave sat quietly beneath the tree. She knelt beside it and spoke softly. I nearly became a destroyer, she whispered. But I heard your voice. You pulled me back. She placed a small orb on the soil. From it, a glowing tree grew all blue, and filled with light. It would never die. And from that day on, it became a symbol of peace, of patience, of Jake Walker, the human who raised a queen. Years passed. The skies above Earth were calm again. No more warships, no more threats, no fear of invasion. But people never forgot the day they saw a golden city in the sky, and the woman who came from it, Nova, the alien child once saved by a simple man, now queen of 1,000 worlds. But even after time passed, and her empire stretched across galaxies, Nova never forgot Earth, and she never forgot Jake Walker. Each year, on the same day Jake had died, Nova returned to the forest. She came alone, quiet. No camera drones followed. No guards stood watch. Only her and the trees. She would kneel beside Jake's grave, her cloak dusted with forest soil, and place her hand on the glowing blue tree that grew above it. The tree had become a legend. It was called the Heart of Peace. It never lost its leaves. At night, it sang a soft hum that could be heard across the valley. Some people said it was his spirit. Others said it was the Queen's love. Planted deep in the roots, Nova would sit beneath it and speak. Sometimes only a few words, sometimes many. Father, she whispered. One year, I spoke at a new human university today. The children were curious, brave. They reminded me of you. Another year, she said, we added a new planet to the Union. They plant trees in your name now." And once, with tears quietly falling, she whispered, "I wish you could have seen it all." The people of Earth changed slowly, but truly, after the day of Mercius, it came to be no nations disarmed thousands of weapons. Old enemies shook hands. Space programs stopped building rockets for war and started building for learning. Nova had offered technology once. Now, she offered teachers. Solari ambassadors helped humans grow food in space. Medical ships healed children in remote villages. Floating libraries taught physics and peace too. Students who had never even seen a computer before. And above it all, Nova's words echoed across time. Greatness is not in strength, it is in kindness. Earth was no longer alone in the stars, but it was also no longer afraid. One day, a little girl in Africa sent a question through a universal broadcast link. "Queen Nova, what was your father like?" The message went out, not expecting an answer, but the galaxy watched as the Queen herself replied. Her face appeared on screens across 1,000 planets. She was seated by a fire, wearing a simple jacket. Not gold, not armor, just warmth. She smiled softly. "My father," she said, "was not a king. He had no crown, no ships, no empire. He lived in a forest. He flew small cargo ships. He drank bad coffee and told silly jokes." She paused. "But he had the biggest heart I've ever known." Across the stars, children listened. On distant moons, scholars wrote her words in stone. On Earth, people planted trees in his name. They called them Walker tree, symbols of second chances and quiet strength. When Nova grew older though, Solari aged slower, she began to teach others how to lead. She formed a council made of many species, including humans. She passed laws that protected weak planets from powerful ones. She made sure the mistakes of the past would not repeat. And yet, she never stopped visiting Earth. Not as a queen, but as a daughter. On the 100th year of her reign, a statue was built on the moon. It was simple, just Jake, standing tall, holding a small alien child in his arms. The stars above him, a tree growing beside him at the base. One line was written in every known language. He saved one life and gave peace to 1,000 worlds. Nova stood before the statue, alone. Once again, her cloak shimmered like starlight, but her eyes were quiet. She placed her hand on the stone. "Thank you, Father," she said. "I became a queen. But I never stopped being your little girl."